So I spoke to Alan Hoffman, and he encouraged me to do all my research here, simply because the Liberian National Archives have been destroyed. Maybe a little bit of history about Liberia would be useful at this point. The tension and the conflicts that Washington McDonald talks about in his letters really come to light when you think about recent Liberian history. In 1980, that was the first time since Liberia declared independence that they had an indigenous Liberian actually head the country. And so there's been a lot of conflict between the two groups, the people who came and the people who are there over the years. And in 1980, Samuel Doe, commander within the Liberian army, organized a coup, and they murdered the president. And since then, there have been a lot of military governments, so governments who are headed by military officers. And the main contention has been that the slaves who immigrated from the US have been capitalizing, they have been pretty much colonizing and taking over all the resources and keeping everything for themselves. And so during these kind of conflicts, during these civil wars, as it were, the National Archives have been funded, and with, I guess with good reason, quote unquote, because the indigenous people did not feel any need to protect and preserve what was really, monuments to their suffering, monuments to their oppression. And so Alan Hoffman told me that any archival research that I needed to do, I should either do it here at the Louisiana State University, at the Presbyterian Historical Society, at the Indiana Bloomington University, and at the Library of Congress in Washington. Because the National Archives at Liberia have been looted several times, they've been destroyed several times, and you really do not find anything substantial. Everything that you can find now is mere records, mere scatterings here and there. University of Indiana at Bloomington has actually been there, and they've done a little bit of an international project where they've tried to recover and preserve the documents that they find, the little that were left. But the records are not as extensive. They do not go back as far as the 1800s. And so any research that I had to do was, I had to do it here. It did speak highly, however, of word of mouth. And so what I tried to do was get into contact with several people who could, perhaps put me in contact with people who had the McDonough name. I figured that if he really did have descendants, Washington McDonough that is, his last name would have continued, probably with a few deviations in terms of spelling. Already, we could see by the 1880s, he had changed his name and he had added a U in the Donna part of it. So either for people who had McDonough as their surname, I called the American Embassy in Monrovia. They actually proved to be a little bit fruitful. I called the Liberian Embassy in DC. They want very much help. And I got into contact with some assistants that Alan Hoffman had used, who helped him to go around, move from place to place, organize interviews with different individuals. They didn't exactly get back to me either. Interestingly, the US Embassy in Monrovia, via one of their research assistants, claimed that they had found a history professor at the University of Liberia who said that he knew where Washington was buried, and he could get pictures of that for a certain sum of money. That was never found. We're yet to find out.